Thomas's branch line had a station by the river. As he rumbled over the bridge, he would see people fishing. Sometimes stood quietly by the lines. Sometimes they were actually jerking out fish out of the water. Thomas often wanted to stop and watch, but his driver said no. What would the fat controller say if we were late? Thomas thought it would be lovely to stop by the river. Every time he met another engine, he would say, I want to go fish. They all answer, Engines don't go fishing! Silly stick in the mud, he would snort independently. Thomas generally had to take water at the station by the river. One day he stopped as usual. As his fireman put the pipe from the water tower into his tank. Then he turned the tap. But it was out of order, and no water came. Bother, said Thomas. I'm thirsty. Never mind, said his driver. We'll get some water from the river. They found a bucket and some rope and went to the bridge. Then the driver let the bucket down into the water. The bucket was old and had 5 holes, so they had to fill it and pull it up and empty it into Thomas's tank as quickly as they could. There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, sang the fireman. Never mind about Liza, said the driver. You empty that bucket before you spill the water over me. They finished at last. That's good, puffed Thomas, and he started, and Annie and Quellbill ran happily behind. They puffed along the valley and were in the tunnel when Thomas began to feel pain in his boiler while steam hissed his safety valves in an alarming way. There's not enough steam, said his driver and his fireman. Open the tap to let more water into the boiler. But none came. Oh dear, groaned Thomas. I'm going to burst. They tapped down his fire and struggled on. I got such a pain, Thomas hissed. Just outside the last station, they stopped, uncoupled Annie and Quellbill, and ran Thomas, who was still hissing, fit to burst onto a siding, and ran out of the way. Then, while the guards telephoned for an engine inspector and the fireman was putting out the fire, the driver wrote notices in large letters which hung on Thomas's front. Danger! Keep away! Soon, the inspector and the fat controller arrived. Cheer up, Thomas, they said. We'll soon put you right. The driver told them what had happened. So they feed the pipe is blocked, said the inspector. I'll just look in the tanks. He climbed up and peered in, then came down. Excuse me, sir, he said to the fat controller. Please take a look in the tank to tell me what you see. Certainly, Inspector. He climbed up and looked in, and then nearly fell in surprise. Inspector, he whispered, can you see? Fish? Goodness gracious me, said Thomas. How did the fish get there, driver? Thomas's driver scratched his head. We must have fished them from the river. And he told them about the bucket. The fat controller laughed. Well, Thomas, so you and your driver have been fishing, but fish don't suit you, and we must get them out. So the driver and the fireman fetched rods and nets, and they all took turns fishing in Thomas's tanks while the fat controller told them how to do it. When they caught all the fish, the station master gave some potatoes, and the driver borrowed the frying pan while the firemen made a fire beside the line. They did it and did the cooking. They all had a lovely picnic supper of fish and chips. "That was good," said the Fat Controller, as he finished his share. "But fish don't suit you, Thomas, and you mustn't do it again." "No, sir, I won't," said Thomas sadly. "Injuns don't go fishing. It's too unforgettable. It's too unconfirmable."